now, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals is more or less 10 years away. In fact, next year, it will be 10 years away. And after 10 years, that's it. Across Nigeria, the Sustainable Development Goals family activation will begin. What this means is an initiative that aims to bring together over 500,000 family and community members in 1 week to identify ways in which they can contribute to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, throughout their own homes and communities. Now, it clearly aims to popularize the SDGs by inspiring a family-focused, integrational discussion about local development. Families will develop their own action plans that will include actions for the environment, family health, and education, and reducing inequalities. Now, to talk more about this, I have already in the studio Semie Michael, the United Nations representative on SDGs, and of course, the Dean Initiative World's Largest Lesson.
Thank you so much, and glad to be here to discuss briefly about the SDGs family activation lessons that will be going around across the country for the next few days in Nigeria.
It's good to see you. Now, you know, looking at it from the perspective of an ordinary Nigerian, the SDGs is actually the successor to the MDGs, that's the Millennium Development Goals. It's got a target of 2030, by 2030, that, okay, now, from next year, we begin to count down. It becomes much closer than we thought. It used to be so far away, but it's just around the corner, if you ask me. Now, the Buhari administration actually did promised that by 2030, it will lift 100 million people in Nigeria out of poverty. To what end are we yet Uhuru, as it were, given what we have on ground right now?
So basically, when we look at what has happened across the country, it is pretty difficult to actually examine or to stage a mark or scorecard to say, oh, we've done so well or we've not done so well, because one, data is critical, which we do not have much of in Nigeria. We've relied so much on the foreign data. Basically, the most valid data we work on in Nigeria is the one supplied by either UNICEF or the UN agencies across board. Unfortunately, we've not been able to collate data that works for us. We are the one that works on the field. There are budgets that we put on the field every year on education, on health, on the environment. We've not been able to get a report from all the sectors, ministries, and parastatals of the government that put these funds to use on the field. There's no feedback from the field to actually examine. This is how much work the money we've invested on the field have been able to give back to us. But that's not to say that as a country we've not been doing a bit. It's just unfortunate that there's need for more precise actions, and there's more that the citizens themselves should also be incorporated to do the essence why the family activation actually come to play.
You know, this is the like I mentioned earlier, the sort of successor to the Millennium Development Goals. Yeah. Although we all know that the Millennium Development Goals didn't quite meet its target, it sort of failed. Yes. But looking at the SDGs, given how far it's come and how much time is left, it will appear that the MDGs did fare somewhat better than the SDGs. What would you say?
Not really, because actually we won't totally say the MDG failed. The lot of things that were achieved and a lot of improvements that were noticed. The only thing that has kept us at the back is this same rhetoric issue of corruption and the inability for us to check within how our funds are being utilized, and people not being held accountable for what they do. But the SDGs has gained more popularity. Anywhere in the world where citizens are not speaking or holding those who are responsible for the discharge of one duty or the other accountable, first, we are going to have problem. Second, people are going to do anything, make away with any amount or whatever they just do, and they go scot-free. That has changed with the SDGs, because what we have in the SDGs is that there's more awareness. People get more engaged. We have more people who knows about the SDGs, more than people who knows about the MDGs. And now that generates question. What we are doing and ensuring that every citizen across the country knows what the SDGs are about. They're not just colorful rainbows or structures. They are actions. And as much as citizens are aware about this, it also helps them to know what type of actions they should be asking, right from the local government to the state government and to the federal government. But beyond that, we're also letting everyone knows that we have to build a society or a country where everybody believes that we have roles to play in building the nation that we want. I had been in the US, I had been in Germany, and I've seen what other countries look like in Europe and even in some part of Africa. There are key responsibilities that citizens themselves have to, key into in playing before the society or a country that we both want can be built. And this is what we want to do.
Now, what is the world's largest lesson about? What is the family activation in all of this, what this is about?
Okay, so the world's largest lesson is just simply, an interpretation of what the global goals are. So we just coined it, make it a global language that this is the largest education that anybody anywhere in the world, especially those who belong to the United Nations family, can learn about. Learning about development. In the last 2 months, when we did the student activation, the intention was to bring development mindset to the young people in the secondary school, and we're able to reach almost about 800 students across the country. Development is not exclusive to the people in government. It's so practical. When we began to see young people, age 10, age 6, expressing the type of country they want. They drill the type of country they want. And now we're moving that away and ensuring that families, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters in a family setup, no matter where they live in Nigeria, are able to understand the role they need to play in bringing development to their doorstep.
Okay, suppose, let's go back to the MDGs again for a second. Why did the MDGs actually fail in Nigeria?
Because MDG was a game between the rich and the poor. It was developed from the concept of the giant nations to feed those who were perceived not to be giant. So it was just, they coined 8 goals, which focus more on the poorest of the poor countries. They didn't emphasize that development is all-encompassing. The issue of climate change didn't occur to them. The issue of peace, justice, and strong institutions didn't occur to them, which is needed anywhere in the world. So now we have climate change that affects everywhere. Doesn't matter if your country is rich. So then the rich countries were made to donate through the global system to fund the poor countries, which eventually people in the poor country, especially those who are in power, saw it as a making ground. And then they harvest these monies and nothing was actually visible that was done. But the game has changed.
In Africa, Rwanda appears to be one of the fastest growing countries, as it were. A country that just came out of genocide to start with. They have made inroads, giant inroads in technology, in healthcare, in education, and they are making the maximum use of the SDGs as well. Why are they succeeding? Why is Nigeria not?
You see, everything is wrapped about the 24th century knowledge of leadership. Like what the president of Rwanda is doing. We were discussing somewhere yesterday. The man is thinking 21st century development. It's removing VAT on pads for females.
Yeah, sanitary
pads to allow.
That's talking about healthcare.
Exactly, to allow increased access for young girls and people who need it as a means of encouraging.
Would you recommend that for Nigerian
Of
because
course.
we do see an increase in value-added tax a lot in this country at the moment.
In everything that is connected to development, there is need to create a kind of incentive that will allow people have better access to it, for them to have better access in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of wash, that is water and sanitation
And health.
Everything that has
These
to
are
do with
actually very key.
very key to development.
Unfortunately, our time is up on this segment. Thank you very much, Semiye Michael, UN SDG representative. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
It's still People, Politics and Power. We'll be back for the continuation of the program as we round off. Stay with us.
Chaos and conflicts. We see community action for good governance. They see poverty and want. We see perseverance and the will to go on. They see economic law. We see the ingenuity and creative spirit of our people. We are AIT News, fresh, authentic views of Africa. How would you rather see the world? AIT News, all sides, all the time.
Keep up to date with the latest development in Nigeria's petroleum industry, the ups and downs in the power sector, the nitty-gritty in the mining industry, analysis, reports, breaking news.
I am Mwesi Gono, and you're watching Africa Independent Television.
The parliament is the symbol of democracy all over the world.
In support of the motion, please.
And from this hallowed chamber, where laws are made for the good governance of the nation,
Those against which say nay.
we'll bring you proceedings from the Nigerian House of Representatives. Stay with us on Africa Independent Television.
Guys, have it.
I am Chukwemeka Agwawi.
Many thanks for staying with us. You're still watching People, Politics and Power. We've been discussing Nigeria power sector reforms, Shore's rearrest, and of course, achieving the UN SDGs. Of course, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, a senior advocate of Nigeria himself, has taken over the trial of the convener of Revolution Now protests, Omoyele Sowore, from the Department of State Services, the DSS. This was made known in a statement issued by Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations to the Minister Umar Gwandu on Friday. Now, the statement said that the federal government asked the Director General of the DSS, Yusuf Bichi, to promptly forward the case file to the AGF's office. Now, this action comes sequel to the rearrest of Omoyele Sowore at the Federal High Court premises on the 6th of December after widespread condemnation from across the globe, of course. I have with me in the studio a supporter of the Sowore movement, as it has become, to x-ray this latest development as well as other issues that have got to do with the case. Right here I have Comrade